Hey everyone, Pastor Chris here. Welcome to the Poolside Chat. Book of Job. The story of Job is one of the most ancient books in the Bible. It's a story of a very righteous man that seems to predate Israel. So some of the groups mentioned in there show that it comes from probably the 2nd century BC, if not before. And it's about this righteous man who has all this trouble befall him, and he does not sin. And it shows the relationship between Job, God, Satan, righteousness. But what's important for this conversation, since we are talking about the unseen world, is the God, Satan, angel interplay. So in chapter 1 it starts out, Job was a righteous man, and he had all this wealth, and he had sons and he had servants, and he would sacrifice to God, and he was blameless. So in verse 6, chapter 1, it says, "One day the angels came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came with them. The Lord said to Satan, 'Where have you come from?' Satan answered the Lord, 'From roaming throughout the earth, going back and forth on it.' The Lord said to Satan, 'Have you considered my servant Job? For there is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil.' 'Does Job fear God for nothing?' Satan replied. 'Have you not put a hedge around him and his household and everything he has? You have blessed the work of his hands, so that his flocks and herds are spread throughout the land. But now stretch out your hand and strike everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face.' The Lord said to Satan, 'Very well then, everything he has is in your power, but on the man himself do not lay a finger.'" It goes on to where Satan and the sons of men come back before God. They take his sons and his children, his servants, and then he comes back a third time and he strikes Job with sickness, boils. And in all this, Job did not sin. But what is interesting when we talk about the unseen world, this is a great example of one way it operates. It says Satan came with the sons of men, angels, before God. So Satan comes before God, and God and Satan have this back and forth. Have you seen this, Satan? Yes, and that's because you bless him. Take everything he has and he'll curse you. God says, go ahead. I always imagine this interplay as like a business meeting. You know the fish bowls in office buildings where you have like your big like weekly meetings and stuff? God is at the head of the table. Satan's over here at the foot of the table. Angels are on the side of the table. And they're all waiting. And what is neat about this unseen world, God gives Satan permission to act. Satan is under his control. The other thing that's interesting is that God says, "Where have you been?" Satan says, "I have been going around the earth to and fro." He's always working. He's always here. Unseen world. And it's interesting how Satan will go back from heaven to earth to try to steal blessings and joy from righteous men and women. So this is a battle, and the battle's over us. That's the unseen world. So when we say our fight is not against flesh and blood, but against powers, against principalities, against powers in the high heavenly places, against the forces of evil in the heavenly realms. That's one way that this manifests itself. That's one way of what this looks like. And what we do, and I will say this over and over again during this time, we do not need to fight against this. We do what Job did. And this is said in Ephesians chapter 6. Let me see if I can turn to it. This is where I read the verse about our battles not against flesh and blood. Maybe I'll find it. Maybe. Oh, here we go. Ephesians 6. So listen to what this says. Be strong in the Lord, and this is verse 6 again. Or excuse me, verse 10. Finally be strong in the Lord and his mighty power. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. Take your stand. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Therefore, put on the full armor of God, so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground, again stand, and after you have done everything, to stand. See, this unseen world has two groups. God and the angels of heaven, Satan and the demons. The story in Job shows Satan and the demons and their power. What we have as believers in Jesus Christ is we have Christ himself and the armies of heaven to battle for us. I have said this before and I will say it again. When that evil comes, we go back to this passage and remember what we have to do. Stand, stand, and stand. We don't fight, we stand. We stand in God's mighty strength and his power. And we look over our shoulder and we have Christ himself and the armies of heaven behind us, got our backs, fighting for us as we stand. You'll hear me say this a lot. There's the first example of this unseen world. There are going to be some more, and some stories that are not from Scripture, some like what I call people stories of where we can see this unseen world at work. So this is the beginning of what we're going to talk about. This is the first example, which comes from one of the most ancient books in the Bible, and we see the unseen world at work. Guys, thanks. I am always going to end on a positive note, and that's why I wanted to share what we have to do. So I pray, no matter where you are today, if you are facing evil right now, stand strong. If you have a great life, stand strong and be watchful in God's mighty power, because it will come. Came against the most righteous man there was in all the earth. It comes for all of us. And remember, look over your shoulder and see God himself and the armies of heaven fighting for us as we stand in God's mighty power. All right, let me stop there. Thanks for joining. Remember, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble at FL Compass Church, and now on Instagram at FL Compass Church. Have a great rest of the week. See you Saturday.